The 25th dynasty of Egypt, known as the Nubian dynasty or the Kushite Empire, was the last dynasty of the third intermediate period of ancient Egypt. The 25th dynasty was a line of rulers originating in the Nubian kingdom of Kush, and most saw Napata as their spiritual homeland. They reigned in part or all of ancient Egypt from 760 BC to 656 BC. The dynasty began with Kashta's invasion of Upper Egypt and culminated in several years of both successful and unsuccessful war with the Mesopotamian-based Assyrian Empire. The 25th's reunification of Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and also Kush created the largest Egyptian empire since the New Kingdom. They assimilated into society by reaffirming ancient Egyptian religious traditions, temples, and artistic forms, while introducing some unique aspects of Kushite culture. It was during the 25th dynasty that the Nile Valley saw the first widespread construction of pyramids since the Middle Kingdom. After the Assyrian kings Sargon II and Sennacherib defeated attempts by the Nubian kings to gain a foothold in the Near East, their successors Esarhaddon and Ashurbanipal invaded Egypt and defeated and drove out the Nubians. War with Assyria resulted in the end of Kushite power in northern Egypt and the conquest of Egypt by Assyria. They were succeeded by the 26th dynasty of Egypt, initially a puppet dynasty installed by and vassals of the Assyrians, the last native dynasty to rule Egypt before the Persian conquest. Rulers. The known rulers, in the history of Egypt, for the 25th dynasty are the following. The period starting with Kashta and ending with Melanechon is sometimes called the Napatan period. The later kings from the 25th dynasty ruled over Napata, Meroe, and Egypt. The seat of government and the royal palace were in Napata during this period, while Meroe was a provincial city. The kings and queens were buried in El-Karu and Nuri. Alara. The first known Nubian king and predecessor of Kashta was not a 25th dynasty king since he did not control any region of Egypt during his reign. While Piye is viewed as the founder of the 25th dynasty, some publications may include Kashta, who already controlled some parts of Upper Egypt. A stela of his was found at Elephantine, and Kashta likely exercised some influence at Thebes since he held enough sway to have his daughter, Amenadisi, adopted as the next divine adoratrice of Amun there. Piye, the 25th dynasty originated in Kush, which is presently in northern Sudan. The city-state of Napata was the spiritual capital, and it was from there that Piye invaded and took control of Egypt. Piye personally led the attack on Egypt and recorded his victory in a lengthy hieroglyphic-filled stela called the Stela of Victory. Piye revived one of the greatest features of the Old and Middle Kingdoms, pyramid construction. An energetic builder, he constructed the oldest known pyramid at the royal burial site of El-Karu and expanded the temple of Amun at Jebel Barkal. Although Manethor does not mention the first king, Piye, mainstream Egyptologists consider him the first pharaoh of the 25th dynasty. Manethor also does not mention the last king, Tantamani, although inscriptions exist to attest to the existence of both Piye and Tantamani. Piye made various unsuccessful attempts to extend Egyptian influence in the Near East, then controlled from Mesopotamia by the Semitic Assyrian Empire. In 720 BC he sent an army in support of a rebellion against Assyria in Philistia and Gaza. However, Piye was defeated by Sargon II, and the rebellion failed. Shabaka conquered the entire Nile Valley, including Upper and Lower Egypt, around 710 BC. Shabaka had Bokros of the preceding Sayas dynasty burned to death for resisting him. After conquering Lower Egypt, Shabaka transferred the capital to Memphis. Shabaka restored the great Egyptian monuments and returned Egypt to a theocratic monarchy by becoming the first priest of Amun. In addition, Shabaka is known for creating a well-preserved example of Memphite theology by inscribing an old religious papyrus into the Shabaka stone. Shabaka supported an uprising against the Assyrians in the Israelite city of Ashdod, however he and his allies were defeated by Sargon II. Shabitku. Recent research by Daniel Kant suggests that Shabitku was king of Egypt by 707–706 BC. This is based on evidence from an inscription of the Assyrian king Sargon II, which was found in Persia and dated to 706 BC. This inscription calls Shabitku the king of Melarah, and states that he sent back to Assyria a rebel named Iamani in handcuffs. Kant's arguments have been widely accepted by many Egyptologists including Rolf Krauss and Aidan Dodson and other scholars at the SCIEM 2000 project, with the notable exception of Kenneth Kitchen and Manfred Biotak at present. Taharqa ushered in one of ancient Egypt's greatest periods of renaissance. He ruled as pharaoh from Memphis, but constructed great works throughout the Nile Valley, including works at Jebel Barkal, Kawa, and Karnak. At Karnak, the sacred lake structures, the kiosk in the first court, and the colonnades at the temple entrance are all owed to Taharqa and Mentuhotep. Taharqa built the largest pyramid in the Nubian region at Nuri. From the 10th century BC onwards, Egypt's remaining Semitic allies in Canaan and southern Aramea had fallen to the Mesopotamian-based Assyrian Empire, and by 700 BC war between the two empires became inevitable. Taharqa enjoyed some success in his attempts to regain a foothold in the Near East by allying himself with various Semitic peoples in the southwest Levant subjugated by Assyria. He aided Judah and King Hezekiah in withstanding a siege by King Sennacherib of the Assyrians. There are various theories as to why the Assyrians failed to take the city. However, Sennacherib's annals record Judah was forced into tribute after the siege. Sennacherib drove the Egyptians from the entire region and back into Egypt. After preventing the Egyptians from gaining a foothold in the region, the Assyrians did not return to the area to do battle for another 20 years, being preoccupied by revolts among their Babylonian brethren and also the Elamites, Scythians and Chaldeans. Sennacherib was murdered by his own sons in revenge for the destruction of the rebellious Mesopotamian city of Babylon, a city sacred to all Mesopotamians, the Assyrians included. His successor, King Esarhaddon, tired of attempts by Egypt to meddle in the Assyrian Empire, began an invasion of Egypt in 671 BC. Taharqa was defeated, and Egypt conquered, with surprising ease and speed by Esarhaddon. Taharqa fled to his Nubian homeland. Esarhaddon describes installing local kings and governors, and all Ethiopians I deported from Egypt, leaving not one left to do homage to me. The Assyrian conquest ended the Nubian 25th dynasty in Egypt, and effectively destroyed the Kushite Empire. However, the Assyrians only stationed their own troops in the north, and the native Egyptian puppet rulers installed by the Assyrians were unable to retain total control of the south of country for long. And 2 years later Taharqa returned from Nubia and seized control of southern Egypt from the native vassal rulers as far north as Memphis. Esarhaddon set about returning to Egypt to once more eject Taharqa from the south. However, he fell ill and died in the northern Assyrian city of Harin before departing. He died in Nubia 2 years later. Taharqa remains an important historical figure in Sudan and elsewhere, as is evidenced by Will Smith's current project to depict Taharqa in a major motion picture. Tantamani, his successor, Tantamani, also made a failed attempt to regain Egypt from the Assyrian Empire. He invaded the far south and defeated a native Egyptian prince named Necho, a vassal ruler of Ashurbanipal, taking Thebes in the process. The Assyrians, based in the north, then sent a large army southwards. Tantamani was routed and fled back to Nubia, and the Assyrian army sacked Thebes to such an extent that it never truly recovered. A native Egyptian ruler, Psamtik I, was placed on the throne. As a vassal of Ashurbanipal of Assyria, he was the first ruler of the 26th dynasty. In 656 BC, Psamtik I peacefully took control of rebellious Thebes and effectively unified all of Egypt, though it remained subject to Assyria until the Assyrian Empire began to tear itself apart with a brutal series of internal civil wars in the 620s. BC. Tantamani and the Nubians were never again to pose a threat to either Assyria or Egypt. However, upon his death, Tantamani was buried with full honors in the royal cemetery of El Kuru, upstream from the Kushite capital of Napata. The 25th dynasty ruled for a little more than 100 years. The successors of the 25th dynasty settled back in their Nubian homeland, where they established a kingdom at Napata, then, later, at Meroe. Influence. Although the 25th dynasty controlled ancient Egypt for only 89 years, it holds an important place in Egyptian history due to the restoration of traditional Egyptian values, culture, art, and architecture. The 25th dynasty likely influenced Greek visitors. Gallery of images. Relief of a high official, California. 670 to 650 BCE. 1996, 146.3. Brooklyn Museum. This relief style makes it possible to attribute it to one of the palatial tombs of Dynasty the 25th and Dynasty the 26th, built by great officials such as Montumhat, governor of Upper Egypt. Kashta, the first king of the 25th dynasty, took control of Upper Egypt and installed his daughter Amenadis as chief priestess of Amun at Thebes. Above are the names of Amenadis and Kashta. Piye was a Nubian king who conquered Egypt and brought it under his control. During the 25th dynasty, the new dynasty ruled from Meroe. Here is his pyramid at El Kuru, Sudan. Shabaka, Shabitku, Taharka in the guise of the Sphinx. Taharka was the son of Piye Tantamani.